These siege settings will make your FPS go from 60 FPS to over 144 FPS. And at the end, I'll show you a setting to get even higher FPS. So you want to go straight to your settings, and we'll start off with the most important thing, which is graphics. So for your texture quality, you don't want to have it too high, as the higher you go, the more video memory you use. So you don't want to have it on high or very high, as this will affect your FPS a lot. Low is too low, so keep it at medium. Nice little sweet spot, doesn't affect your FPS at all. So for texture filtering, you want to have that on linear. LOD quality, you want to have on low. Shading quality, you also want to have that on low. Doesn't affect FPS at all. Don't need shading. So for your shadow quality, you don't want to have this on low, as shadows are a big part of Siege and can help you know when an enemy is swinging to peek. So put this on medium, you won't regret it. You want your reflection on low, VFX on low, you want your ambient occlusion off, lens effects off, zoom in depth of field, that is off, but this is also personal preference, does not affect your FPS at all. Now for anti-aliasing, you can turn this off, but it may still mess with your FPS. Personally, I have found that TAA has helped increase my FPS. As you can see here, it uses post-process to get the fastest and best quality. If you have a 1920 by 1080 monitor like me, I'd recommend having it on 50, as you can read here. Lower resolutions can drastically improve your frame rate. Now for sharpness, you want to put this up to the max. You want the sharpest images when fighting an enemy. 100 is where it's at. It doesn't affect your FPS too much, but with the rest of the settings here, it'll even out. Now for display, you want the resolution as 1920 by 1080. For a refresh rate, you want this maxed out with the highest it can be. Aspect ratio, you want this as 4:3. Now this will stretch your screen out. This will make your FPS much better. If it's a little bit too much for you, change it to 1610. It's a little bit less stretched, but 4:3 will give you the best FPS. FPS limit, you want that off. Field of view is personal preference, 85 or 90. But I'll leave mine on 85. Audio is all personal preference except dynamic range. Night mode means you hear the sounds that you need to hear. The player, the footsteps, which is more important for you when you play a Siege game. Now for HUD, it's all personal preference, but if you want to take up less screen space, it may help with FPS, but I have not yet confirmed this. Compass, you want on simplified, as advanced is just too much. Now if you scroll down, you want to make sure you turn teammate usernames off. Less words on the screen may help you. Now in general guys, this is once again all personal preference except one thing. Scroll down to match replay. If this is on, it's going to take up more storage on your computer because it has to save the files. It's going to affect your FPS that one little bit, so you want to turn that off. Now on accessibility, the reticle doesn't make much difference, but I would recommend turning the opacity to 85 as it makes it a little easier to see the enemy's heads when aiming in. The main thing you want to change is the screen shake intensity. You want that off. You know when you walk through a Kapkan trap and your screen shakes massively? That can affect your FPS, so you want it off. No frame change issues in game. So now for the settings that I was talking about at the start of the video. When I go on the bottom left here, you want to type game mode. Click on this. Yes, we all know you want to have this on, but you want to go to the graphics settings in the top right here. You want to go to browse. You want to locate your Rainbow Six Siege files and find out which version you play on, Vulcan, BE or regular. You want to click on it, hit add, then you want to go to the options here. Make sure this is running on a high performance, as this will give you higher FPS in game. The next thing you want to do is you want to right click your desktop. You want to go to the NVIDIA control panel. Once you have this open, you want to make sure it's all the way to performance. Hit apply. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to go to manage 3D settings. You want to make sure your image scaling is off, ambient occlusion is off, and for all the anti-aliasing you want to make sure that's off. You don't really want to mess around with any of the other settings, as it could affect your other stuff in game. Now if I've helped raise your FPS slightly, please consider subscribing. Goodbye.